Rain lashed the windshield of Jonathan Hale's Rolls-Royce as his longtime driver, Wallace, maneuvered through the flooded streets of downtown. At 54, Jonathan had risen from a humble upbringing to create Hale Industries, a multi-billion-dollar empire known across New York and beyond. "Sir," Wallace said, easing the car to the shoulder as the engine sputtered, "we've got an issue." Engine stalled. "We're near the Westbridge Community Center." Jonathan set down his tablet, sighing. His quarterly earnings reports had occupied his attention. Checking his Patek Philippe watch, he noted he still had 2 hours before his board meeting, but any form of delay irritated him deeply. "Call service. I'll wait inside." Grabbing his umbrella, Jonathan stepped out, expensive leather shoes immediately soaked by a puddle. Scowling, he made his way toward the weather-beaten building when suddenly the doors flung open. A disheveled man emerged, dragging 2 small boys by their wrists. They were no older than 5, twins, soaked and sobbing. "I can't do this anymore," the man shouted over the storm. "She's gone, and I'm not their father." "Please don't leave us," one of the boys cried, clinging desperately to his leg. Jonathan stood frozen, heart pounding. He hadn't felt much of anything in years, but something in the boys' tear-streaked faces cracked open an old, sealed part of him. "You can't just abandon them," a woman's voice called after the man. But he shrugged her off and stomped into the rain. Jonathan, without fully realizing it, stepped between the fleeing man and the boys. "You can't just leave them," Jonathan said sternly. The man hesitated, recognizing him instantly. Everyone in New York knew Jonathan Hale's face. "They're not mine," he stammered. "Their mom, Michelle Warner, died last month on their birthday. I tried, but I can't do this." Jonathan knelt, uncaring that rain soaked his bespoke suit. "What are your names?" "I'm Logan," whispered one. "I'm Liam," said the other. Jonathan felt something shift inside him. "Sir," Wallace called, hurrying with another umbrella. Jonathan didn't move. He watched as the boys were led back into the community center by a worried social worker. Then he turned to Wallace. "Cancel my meetings," he said abruptly. "I'm staying." Inside, the community center was dim and worn, but warm. The boys huddled on a frayed sofa, clinging to each other. A woman approached. "Mr. Hale? I'm Rachel Monroe, social worker here. Thank you for intervening, but we have procedures." "What happens to them now?" Jonathan asked, as never leaving Logan and Liam. "Foster care," Rachel said sadly. "Keeping twins together can be difficult." Jonathan's chest tightened. "I want to help," he said simply. Rachel blinked. "Mr. Hale, with all respect, these matters are legally complex." Jonathan had already pulled out his phone. "Daniel, get me emergency guardianship paperwork. Now." By evening, after a flurry of legal documents and incredulous phone calls, Jonathan Hale, billionaire, titan of industry, lifelong bachelor, became the temporary guardian of 2 fragile little boys. The rain had stopped as Wallace pulled the repaired rolls up to the mansion gates. Logan and Liam pressed their faces against the windows, marveling at the towering stone home. "You live here?" Logan gasped. Jonathan almost chuckled. "It's just a house. Too big for one person." Inside, the housekeeper, Mrs. Bennett, met them, wide-eyed at the sight of 2 muddy little boys. "Prepare adjoining rooms," Jonathan instructed crisply. "They'll need clothes, toys, everything." As Mrs. Bennett whisked the boys away for baths and supper, the front doors burst open again. "Jonathan," barked a sharp voice. Caroline Hale, his younger sister and chief operating officer, stomped across the marble floor in stilettos. "You canceled the Asian market conference for this?" Jonathan calmly poured himself a scotch. "They were abandoned, Caroline. I couldn't turn my back." Caroline's eyes narrowed. "You're jeopardizing everything we've built for a pair of orphans?" "They might not be strangers," Jonathan said quietly. "What?" Caroline snapped. "They remind me of Marcus." A silence hung heavy between them. Marcus Hale, their younger brother, had died in a mountaineering accident 5 years earlier. His name was rarely spoken. Caroline paled. "Marcus had no children. He would have told us." "Maybe he didn't know," Jonathan said. "You're grasping at ghosts, Jonathan. Snap out of it." But Jonathan was already dialing his investigator. "Look into Michelle Warner. Find out everything." Weeks passed. Jonathan's life, once a symphony of precision and order, became chaotic and unpredictable. School runs, doctor visits, soccer games, homework nights. At first, he clung to his old routines, conference calls during breakfast, emails while the boys played. But gradually, he found himself choosing differently. He spent mornings flipping pancakes shaped like dinosaurs and evenings coaching math homework instead of mergers. Caroline was livid. Board members whispered about his midlife crisis. Jonathan didn't care. When Logan came home one day, trembling from a class assignment asking for family photos, Jonathan knelt and said, "Family isn't about pictures. It's about who stands with you. I'm standing with you." One rainy Friday, a plain envelope arrived. Inside, a yellowed photograph of Marcus, laughing, climbing, alive, and a note, "They have his eyes." Jonathan's heart twisted. His suspicions grew stronger. When DNA tests initially came back, no relation, Caroline smirked. "See? Wishful thinking." But something gnawed at Jonathan. Identical twins, Marcus and Jonathan, shared nearly identical DNA. If Marcus had children, genetically, they would seem like Jonathan's own. Another round of private testing confirmed it. Logan and Liam were Marcus Hale's sons. Jonathan's nephews. His boys. The truth exploded at a heated board meeting. Caroline, exposed for falsifying DNA results to protect her share of Hale Industries, was forced to resign. Jonathan emerged not weakened but strengthened, respected more for his loyalty to family than for corporate ruthlessness. That winter, Logan fell critically ill. Diagnosis: aplastic anemia. A bone marrow transplant was his only chance. Jonathan didn't hesitate. He was a perfect match. After a grueling donation and transplant process, Logan recovered, his resilience remarkable. Jonathan sat at his bedside every night, whispering promises. "You're not alone anymore. You'll never be alone again." 3 years later, sunlight filled the restored mansion, now a true home. Walls once bare now displayed school art projects and family photographs. Jonathan, Liam, and Logan stood before the grand entrance of the newly built Marcus Hale Children's Research Center, a hospital funded by Hale Industries to honor the brother who had left behind the greatest gift: family. Jonathan straightened Logan's tie, his own heart full. "Ready?" he asked. Logan beamed. "Ready, Dad." Liam nodded eagerly beside him. Jonathan smiled, resting a hand on each of their shoulders. Family, he had learned, wasn't built by blood alone. It was forged through love, sacrifice, and choice. And he, once the loneliest man in New York, had chosen them with everything he had. Forever.